We don't want to scare, we don't want to stigmatize, and we don't want to create a moral panic. We need to stop thinking that anything tech-related is a cybersecurity or a cybercrime risk. I'm Jeffrey Demarco. I'm a Senior Technical Advisor for protecting children from digital harm at Save the Children UK. When I use the term digital well-being, I like people to think about it as part of a wider suite of well-being, not just about the digital. It's talking about how young people thrive, stay connected, learn, and use opportunities that they come face-to-face to whilst they're playing games, whilst they're connecting, whilst they're learning, when they're socializing. But we want to ensure that they're doing so in a way that's meaningful, useful, and is done safely for them. So a child's digital well-being is perceived to often be influenced by their level of knowledge around data security, how they manage their screen time and self-regulate, issues around their digital identity and who they are in online spaces, their knowledge of digital literacy and all the techno-babble that goes along with it, and lastly, digital empathy, being kind, treating others as they want to be treated, even though they are somewhat disembodied in the online space. All of that together is giving us an indicator, helping us understand overall digital well-being so that we know that they're enjoying those online opportunities and it's not interfering in an adverse or negative way when they're offline. It's not just about the time they spend online. We know that when it comes to metrics of screen time, children and young people can be doing lots of different things. What is more important is to understand what that meaningful, age-appropriate screen time is. Are they learning? Are they connecting? Or are they going down an infinite scroll? This context matters because it's going to be affecting their overall levels of well-being. When it comes to children's lives online currently, I think we often feel a pressure to go immediately to the negative and the harm that may be occurring. And I actually like to talk a little bit more about the opportunity and the positives. 2 years ago, Save the Children released a report about children across 7 countries' experiences of online grooming. And a fascinating finding in that report was that more than 2/3 of children and young people felt competent, confident, and cautious when they were engaging online, including when they were interacting with strangers. Now, I'm not trying to say that there aren't other harms, pitfalls, and dangers to the online world that we need to equip parents, carers, children, and young people with. But knowing that the majority feel like they have the skills and the competence to navigate that space is a real powerful message. They have high levels of online safety, and they use their digital devices, whether that's their smartphone, their tablet, their laptop, to stay connected with friends, to do things they enjoy doing, to learn, to make sure they can talk to extended family, or to have a laugh together about a trend they're seeing. What we as adults, as government, as organizations like Save the Children need to do is to ensure that we are helping to build what I like to call digital resilience. We're giving them the skills so that it creates friction and tension when they are confronted with harms in the online space. To stop, to think about it, to close the app down, to speak to a trusted adult, or to report it through the right channels. This is not shifting responsibility onto children and young people, but giving them the skills they may need in order to navigate certain uncertainties. We know that a lot of the technology platforms and companies are listening. They are rolling out age assurance and safety features that will help parents and carers protect their young people. The difficulties are that this is often not enough. So there's a range of risks and harms online that often adults that are working, helping, supporting children don't necessarily always think about. We hear a lot around online child sexual exploitation and abuse, and we know that that is a serious transnational threat that can affect children in all corners of the globe. We know that there are certain children from marginalized or excluded backgrounds that may be at even more threat to those things. So whilst I do not want to dismiss online child sexual exploitation and abuse as a serious threat and harm to children, there are other things that we also need to think about in ensuring children's opportunity and positive experiences online. Things like their screen time, their privacy and data management. A lot of children also tell us and talk to us about their fear of cyberbullying and how that may affect their reputation, their friendship circles. Children find it challenging to deal and critically assess mis- and disinformation. These are all other bits of their online, balanced, connected world that really interfere with their well-being, with their ability to understand, their ability to learn, and their ability to positively socialize. So we need to take a step back and to think about some of these day-to-day concerns and harms around what children may be exposed to, what they may be experiencing, so that we can speak with them in a meaningful way to help them build their confidence, to help them build their competence when navigating these multiple challenges in the online space. The pace of technological change and the unpredictable nature of where harm will go next is really, really difficult to stay on top of for the young people themselves and for their families. When technological features on platforms are rolled out without the appropriate safety by design features tested, embedded, developed with organizations that are child friendly and right preserving, it means that when we get upstream, we may not know what is happening to these young people. We may not know what risks may present themselves. The media is sharing more and more stories every day around notification apps and features, about children's use of AI companion apps, chatbots. So ensuring that these platforms, that these features on platforms are developed in an ethical, safe, child-friendly way is of paramount importance. Any curricula, any programming for children and young people around digital well-being and online safety needs to be skills focused. And what I mean by that is we need to give them the skills in order to navigate an online space that is at times unpredictable. Young people turning more and more to AI companion apps or general feature AI tools poses some significant challenges for how those adults responsible for protecting and safeguarding children are able to operate. With the Save the Children and Vodafone Foundation partnership, we have developed 4 lesson plans that is being delivered across 8 countries and is allowing teachers to speak to these children around the positives of using AI companion apps, but also providing them with a structure and routine so that they do their due diligence in what they might be learning or what they may be asking the apps for. We don't want to scare, we don't want to stigmatize, and we don't want to create a moral panic with young people using these features, especially in an unprecedented time where there are real pressures around what your friends are doing and what your peers are doing that is exponentiated in the online space. If all of your friends are using something and your parents and carers are saying that this young person cannot, there may be a sensation that the child will do so anyways, but because they perceive themselves as doing something wrong, they may not go to their parent or carer or trusted adult when something actually does go wrong. So again, giving them the skills to use these things competently and cautiously, but to always have a pathway to a trusted adult. To know that when something's very serious, or it's asking for personal data or too much information, that they should speak to a trusted adult, stop using it, and go through a different source to gain their information. A little bit of age-appropriate exploration is not a horrible thing, but it is important that we recognize that that should not go unsupervised and it should not go unfettered. That these models will often provide the children with the information they want back. So if we can upskill the young people so they know when it's time to turn away and to go to a friend or to mom, dad, carers, older siblings, a teacher, a counselor, that is a win in our mind. That is the message we want these young people to know around what those restrictions are and when they should be deviating elsewhere. We also want to ensure that we are equipping children with knowledge around other elements of their digital footprint and online life, away from the approaches of groomers and strangers. We need to talk to them around and about their screen time. We want to make sure that they know their rights around the data that they hand over to platforms and to companies. Clicking accept might seem like it's not costing you anything to get access to that new avatar or that new feature on the platform, but often young people are paying with their data. And you, children and adolescents, have rights around your data, and you have rights to know what is being done with that. We also want to help equip children to develop their critical thinking skills when it comes to the fast-paced presence of mis and disinformation in the online spaces. Being able to critically reflect about what you're being told, whether it's true, whether it requires you to look for further evidence to see if that's really something, is important. Again, we see this as positive and skills building, equipping young people with the competencies, the knowledge, and the skills so that they can navigate the vast online world in a safe, secure, competent, and confident way. I think one of the most powerful things I ever heard was about 6 months ago, talking to a young person around online child sexual abuse and exploitation, around their fears, around their concerns, around their wider friendship group, and about how worried they were about it. And this young person stopped me in my tracks and said, "Dr. Demarco, listen, we all know that's a harm. We know for the most part how to deal with it, how to speak to people that we need to. We're more concerned about our online reputation. I've spent months, if not years, curating my feed, making sure I'm connected to the right people. And if I put one toe out of line, my parents might take my phone away, they'll close all my accounts, and then I'll have to start that from scratch. It means I'll lose a whole bunch of my friends. It means I'll lose the things that I find interesting, I find funny, that I learn from, and it means that I will become nobody in the online space." Now, I share that example not because I'm trying to argue that young people should only be curating the algorithm and their profile and their feed, but to recognize that young people, again, do not see it all doom and gloom in the online space. They do have certain skills and competencies and confidence. They do approach in certain situations harmful issues and risk with caution, but that they actually really thrive in certain circumstances online, and that we need to embrace that when they're online socializing, playing, engaging, communicating, it's not always bad. To really involve children in decisions about the digital world they navigate, it means that we are not tokenistic about their inclusion. With Save the Children UK's partnership with the Vodafone Foundation, this has involved the creation of a children's digital advocacy network, and that means that we have young people across the network, across the countries being involved, that are feeding into our advocacy messaging. They're looking at the instruments that we're looking to use in creating for research. They're helping us think about how we collect evidence and learning for the monitoring. And we're going to them to talk about the things they're worried about, the things they think they have gaps in, or they want to develop skills with, so that it's not just a bunch of adults creating the safety messages and the educational curricula. It's actually meaningfully collaborating with them so that they are there with us in designing what it is that young people need. And this isn't trying to make them make adult decisions. It's trying to ensure that we are creating resources and content that is meaningful for them and for their peers, and which is speaking to their threats, their harms, their worries, but also what they want to achieve with access to the online space. The adolescent years bring an opportunity for self-growth, discovery, impulsivity, but this is all normal from a developmental and formative perspective. The cortex, the prefrontal cortex in particular, that part of your brain that's responsible for executive functioning, decision-making, problem-solving, it's still all forming. And we learn through our experiences, through a bit of trial and error. So we don't want to condone children for having experiences, but when you take that critical phase in which that part of the brain is still developing, is still learning, and you put it in an online environment in which we have quick access to reward, we can often find ourselves in very precarious and difficult situations. And we just, again, want to make sure that when it comes to teenagers who might be more likely to take a risk or act more impulsively on something they read, on something that's been sent to them that they may want to click on a trend or an influencer's information, what we need to do is just give them a reason to pause and reflect. So it's more around not being afraid about having that uncomfortable conversation with your child and the young person about what they're scared about online, about what they feel they are supported in or where they could use more help. What are the trends? What is the news saying? What are all the young people on today? What are they all going to be on tomorrow? That building up that level of awareness and knowledge means that we can all be a trusted adult. We need to stop thinking that we are scared of technology. We need to stop thinking that anything tech related is a cybersecurity or a cybercrime risk. It's where we don't have two-way reciprocal conversations with our kids about these things, that things may often occur in a silo, in an echo chamber, where no dialogue leads to preventing bad things from happening in the first instance. We can destigmatize their concerns and fears of seeking help when something goes wrong, or if they feel like they're spending too much time online. What we don't want is for young people to see the adults in their wider network as being, uninformed and unknowledgeable in this space. We want children and adolescents to go to trusted adults in a variety of ways when they need help. This open dialogue is the best tool for proactive prevention from harm and risk. I am not claiming that the responsibility should be placed on the families themselves, but the families are existing in a wider, complex ecosystem that is always changing. Therefore, having that two-way communication is a real positive way of trying to both stay on top of the good and what might not be so good. So when it comes to making online spaces safer for children and young people, I very much like to take a public health approach to tackling this. And what I mean by that is that we need to ensure that we're speaking about the opportunities and the risks to different groups. We need to speak to all children and young people. We need to speak to those that may have less access or may be at a heightened risk of the approaches of strangers or bad and risky things happening. And for those young people in which a harm has occurred, we need to ensure that the pathways for support, signposting, referral pathways are transparent, accessible, and easy to use. When it comes to the organizations, the groups, the institutions that need to play a part, we need to make sure that we are holding these companies accountable and that they are building in safety features by default with organizations like Save the Children, so we ensure appropriate child participation and co-productive, collaborative engagement in making that platform, making that app, making that experience as child-friendly, as rights-preserving as possible. Children don't look at being offline or online. It's all around their lived reality. They do not cognitively shut off and say, all right, I'm going to go offline now, or this happened online. It's merged together. So making sure institutions understand that can make sure that we identify risk when we need to, that we build competency when necessary, and that we ensure that organizations are collaboratively working together to have that safety net around children. If we wanted to make the online world safer and better for children, I would argue that there's 3 key things we need to think about. Firstly, we, as a society, want to ensure that we are embedding in positive norms and cultures in the online space. This is why things like teaching children about their digital identity and about digital empathy is so vitally important. To be kind and respectful in the online space is no different than in the offline space. The danger is when not being kind, when not subscribing to positive, pro-social norms and values in the online space, the negative can spread and influence very, very quickly. Secondly, we need to hold technology companies accountable. We talk, or you will have heard a lot, about safer by design and safety by design. So that's building the platforms with the safety features in it. But from a Save the Children perspective, we also talk a lot about child protection by design and well-being by design. So it's not just about the safety features. It's about a suite of features that keep the children safe, but also promote well-being, promote inclusion, and promote their protection. Thirdly, it's around different competencies and different skills in the online space. And we often refer to these through our partnership with the Vodafone Foundation as the SMILE framework. This means teaching children and young people about the S, that's their data security. It's about the M, their data management. I, digital identity. L, digital literacy. And E, their digital empathy. These features, these skills, these competencies are all things that can create a robust, holistic, positive experience for young people in the online space. And by focusing on these things as competencies, as skills, we can promote a positive, interactive, positively opportunistic online experience, whilst not always thinking that harm and danger are around every digital and cyber corner, but that there is great value in interaction and in creating the friction and the tension and the competencies so that when something does seem strange, uncomfortable, or dangerous, young people are able to feel self-empowered and take back control, but also to know when they might need help and support.